For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could win your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year. That's a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to a whopping £20,000. Plus, we'll add an extra £5,000 on top for good measure. Make sure you don't miss out as lines close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hello there and happy Friday to you. Coming up tonight here on Dewbs & Co, Lucy Connolly has been given her first interviews. She's absolutely resolute. She says she is not a far-right thug. Let's look at some of the things that she has to say. Also, we've got protests again this weekend. You've got the Home Office appealing against the Epping Hotel decision, historic dissatisfaction with policing outcomes, and so now people are going out and policing the streets themselves. It is a mess. But tell me, what is the answer? I want to get stuck into some serious debate tonight. I also want to ask you as well, the changing demographic of this country, is that an issue? Is it something that bothers you or not? Keeping me company till 7. I've got my panel, Matt Goodwin, the pollster and academic, and Sebastian Salick, the Labour councillor for Waltham Forest. But before we get stuck in, let's give you your 6 o'clock news headlines.
Michelle, thank you. A very good evening. These are your headlines just after 6 o'clock. Breaking in the last hour, Lucy Connolly has accused Sir Keir Starmer of holding her as a political prisoner, and she says it was bizarre that she had to spend more than a year behind bars. Speaking to The Telegraph, she said that she is considering legal action against the police following her release from prison for stirring up racial hatred against asylum seekers online. The 42-year-old wife of Conservative councillor Raymond Connolly went on to say, I do think the police were dishonest in what they released about me, and I will be holding them to account for that. Ms Connolly was handed a 31-month sentence but left HMP Peterborough yesterday morning after being released on licence.
Of course, it wasn't my finest moment, and I definitely don't advocate violence or burning anything down or anything of the sort. To be honest, it was emotion. Does that make sense to you? I don't know what was going on. I was just so upset and so angry and just thinking to myself, when will this stop, you know? I was just anger, you know, and just, I wasn't thinking rationally.
Somani Hotels, the owner of the Bell Hotel in Epping and the Home Office, will seek to appeal against the High Court's refusal to allow it to intervene in the case of a hotel used to house asylum seekers in Epping. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp has condemned the Home Office's decision, calling it completely wrong. New figures reveal that more than 32,000 asylum seekers are currently living in hotels, an 8% increase since Labour's first year in power. Conservative Party Chair Kevin Hollinrake firmly disagrees with the government's decision.
The government's just not listening. People do not want these hotels in their local area, and what they actually want is a deterrent putting back in place, like we have with the Rwanda deterrent, which has stopped these crossings in the first place. That's what the government needs to re-implement.
Benjamin Netanyahu says the IPC have ignored recent humanitarian steps made by Israel in Gaza. That's amid their declaration of a famine in Gaza City. The UN-backed food security body warns that more than 500,000 people face starvation, destitution and death under catastrophic conditions. The Israeli Prime Minister says their report is an outright lie and insists that Israel has a policy of preventing starvation. It comes as Mr Netanyahu confirms that Israel will resume negotiations with terror group Hamas for the release of all hostages captured during the October 7th attacks. But its military will continue its Gaza City offensive despite international outcry. And scientists have discovered a new species of dinosaur, which had an eye-catching sail along its back and tail, which might have been used to attract mates. The new dinosaur, whose fossils were found on the Isle of Wight, was identified by PhD student at the University of Portsmouth and the Natural History Museum, Jeremy Lockwood. The dinosaur has been named after the sailor Dame Ellen MacArthur, who also comes from the Isle of Wight. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More from me in an hour.
Hello, thank you very much for that, and hello, happy Friday. It's Friday, yes. What do you think when you get to Friday? Do you just think you want to go for a lay down in a dark room, or do you just sit there going, Friday? Don't bother me, Michelle, because I've got to work all weekend as well. I always like Fridays because Dewberry Tavern opens, so I hope you'll join me tonight and toast the end of the week. We got there, keeping me company. I've got Matt Goodwin, the pollster, academic and GB News presenter. You're pulling another shift after this show.
I am, at 8 o'clock on Friday night with Matt Goodwin. We've got a good one on Goodwin coming up tonight, I can tell you. A good one on Goodwin. Well, there you go. That is your Friday night sorted. Alongside him, I've got Sebastian Salek, the Labour councillor for Waltham Forest. I've not seen you for a while. You're very welcome back tonight, as are each and every single one of you at home. What's on your mind? Join the conversation in all the usual ways. Email me, gbviews@gbnews.com. Go to the website, gbnews.com/yoursay, or you can tweet and you can X me. I want to get down into the weeds of it all tonight, ladies and gents. There is so much going on in this country. Political dissatisfaction absolutely sky high. You've got criminal dissatisfaction now when it comes to the way the police are dealing with things. So you've got people out now in groups policing their own streets. Speaking of streets, you've got flags absolutely everywhere, councils everywhere taking them down, demographic changes left, right and centre, Home Office appealing against Epping Hotel. Goodness gracious me, we've got a lot to talk about. But before we get into all of that, and we will get into that, I want to talk to you about Lucy Connolly. Of course, we all know this story now. You don't need me to remind you who she is and to rehash it all. Well, today, since being released from prison, she has been given interviews. Let's take a listen to some of the things that she's had to say.
Have you been Keir Starmer's political prisoner?
Absolutely. And me and several other people. Like I said, it's important to remember that it wasn't just me. I, for some reason, seem to have had the most coverage, but there are people that are in equally awful situations that shouldn't be in there, and we should also be fighting for them and remembering them, and when they come out, give them the same support as what I'm getting from people as well. And I think with Keir Starmer, I think he needs to practice what he preaches. I think, you know, he's a human rights lawyer, so maybe he needs to look back at what people's human rights are, what freedom of speech means, and what the laws are in this country, if he's so, bothered about sticking to the law and making the law work and not undermining the law.
Well, there you go. That's a bit of homework for Keir Starmer. Let's listen to what else she had to say about him.
Lucy, do you think Keir Starmer influenced the way you and others were treated by the criminal justice system?
100%. Yes. When he made his speech in the beginning, this is before I was even arrested, I thought it was very divisive. It was very much, oh, well, if you're bothered about children being murdered, you're a right wing, you're far right. That's not, people are going to be and are entitled to be upset, deeply upset about the unnecessary death of children. And let's not forget the other children that didn't lose their lives and what they now have to go through and what they went through. Nobody should have to go through that. So it's completely plausible that people are going to be upset and angry about the situation.
And of course, you're not just upset and angry about that situation, you was upset and angry about another situation. Of course, Councillor Ricky Jones. Take a listen to this.
I'm pleased that the justice system did work for Ricky Jones, and I'm, glad that he was able to get bail and he was able to seek, good legal advice and, have time to stop and think about how he was going to plea and all of those things. I wasn't, given that luxury. I don't advocate that we should be throwing anyone in jail or for saying, he did, as I did, he said something that he shouldn't have done. It was silly. Does it really make him a criminal? Should we be putting people like him and I in prison? Absolutely not.
Well, there you go then. What do you make to some of what you've been hearing there? She was talking to Alison Pearson in the Telegraph, in case she was listening on the radio and didn't see that on the screen. Matt Goodwin, your thoughts?
Well, firstly, it's wonderful that Lucy Connolly is free. And secondly, I would just like to say how impressed I have been looking at some of those clips of her interviews. She's so composed and coherent and interesting and insightful, because, to be honest, if I'd just been held into prison for a year because of what I'd shared some hurty words on social media before deleting them a few hours later, I'd be furious. I'd be beside myself. And, this is somebody that has spent longer in prison, we should remember, than Hugh Edwards, than paedophiles who receive suspended sentences, convicted child rapists, domestic abusers, terrorist sympathisers, members of the rape gangs. And Lucy Connolly now has become the symbol of two-tier Britain. She's become the symbol of our free speech crisis in this country. And she's become, I think, the symbol of how utterly adrift this Labour government is and this Labour Prime Minister Keir Starmer is from the rest of the country.
And what your thoughts?
Well, look, I'm pleased that she's able to put this episode behind her. It's been clearly a horrible time for her. No one wants to spend any time in prison. But let's look at the facts. She pleaded guilty to inciting racial hatred. She did her time, and now she's free to move on with her life. And I really hope she'll be able to do that.
She says... Oh, go on.
Well, there was a difference between her case and Ricky Jones, when she was very, admirable and courteous in discussing Ricky Jones. But, of course, people should point out that the reason he pled not guilty is because he did not have the justice and criminal system come down on him like a pile of bricks, which they did to Lucy Connolly. Now, in hindsight, had she pled not guilty, had that gone to court with a jury, I suspect she may not have gone to prison. But let's remember, the only reason she pled guilty was because she came under enormous pressure, whipped up by Keir Starmer, deriding everybody in this country who cared about immigration, who cared about illegal migration, who cared about what's happening to our country in the aftermath of Southport, as far right. And Keir Starmer created an environment where people like Lucy Connolly were quickly whipped up and thrown into prison. And I hope he would have the grace at some point to apologise and Yvette Cooper for the kind of atmosphere they created after Southport.
If we're talking about whipping things up, let's remember that environment. Let's remember people kicking off about a horrible, tragic situation and the race riots that ensued after that. And this was part of that. We have to look at that in context. Yes, you can call it a tweet, but at the end of the day, it was inciting racial hatred. She pleaded guilty to that. She said in the tweet herself, if this makes me racist, so be it. So it's really hard to move away from that. We talked about her being in prison for a long time. The sentence was reduced at the time of sentencing from what it originally was, and she ended up serving 40% of it. So she really has not served the duration of what she was potentially faced. And as I say, I'm pleased that she can be able to move on with her life now.
I noticed that you call these race riots with ease. Do you think that those riots and all the stuff that unfolded afterwards were race riots?
No, I don't think they were race riots. I think there was definitely a violent element within those riots which should always be condemned. But many of the protesters last summer, like many of the people who will join the marches and protests that we'll come on to talk about later in the show this weekend, are not racist. They're not far-right thugs. They're mothers, their fathers, their grandparents, they're citizens, they're tax-paying citizens who are utterly frustrated with what's happening in this country. And I think people out there have simply had enough of the lies, the gaslighting, the broken borders, the billions in costs. And Lucy Connolly, is a reminder, too, about just how imperilled the things that defined us centuries ago really are. These islands gave birth to free speech, free expression and individual liberty. I think it's shameful that a mother and a wife and somebody, you know, as eloquent and as put together as Lucy Connolly was put into prison in the first place.
But you must understand, Matt, that there's a difference between free speech, which we absolutely have in this country, and inciting racial hatred.
I don't think she did incite racial violence or racial hatred.
She said it herself.
Hatred.
She said, if this makes me racist, so be it. It's in black and white. Well, she said also, set fire to the effing hotels full of the B words. We can't say the word she said.
She tweeted in the heat of the moment, and 4 hours later, Sebastian, she took the tweet down, and she then tweeted, I do not condone or encourage people to engage in violence.
And in that time,
we are
300,000 impressions at a time of incredibly heightened tensions in this country. You can see what impact words will have on people. You can incite racial hatred via the internet now. It's just how it works. You can get.
Do you think it's inciting racial hatred when people like the guy that was very instrumental in Hope Not Hate are tweeting out during this atmosphere, saying that white people are throwing acid in the face of Muslims? Do you think that is inciting racial hatred?
I haven't seen that, so I can't comment on it, but I can talk broadly about it.
Do you think it was a race riot when you saw those significant groups of Muslim men charging the streets, essentially looking for white people to attack? Did you regard that as race?
Again, when was that?
At the same time as all of this. So
well,
you
look,
saw
I would condemn all violence.
But I know, but I didn't ask you if you'd condemn it, because everyone would condemn it. What I'm saying is we saw two different things. We saw the horrendous scenes where people were going out into the streets looking to attack. I saw people that were innocently, you know, walking down the street and they were punched in the face because they had brown skin. That is racist behaviour. It was appalling. But I also saw a white guy punched, you know, attacked violently, and groups of Muslim men patrolling the streets looking for white guys to attack. I regarded that as racist activity as well. Did you?
Well, look, I wasn't there. I didn't see that. But if that's what happened...
But you wasn't in the streets during these riots either.
No, but I know that these happened. I wasn't aware of that, and I want to be able to comment on them.
How can you only be aware of one side of the story?
Well, because that's the part that I remembered. I'm trying to be upfront and I'm trying to be honest with you. I can only comment on things that I remember, but if that did happen, and I'm willing to believe it did, I'm willing to believe it did, then that is also terrible.
It did, but people have short memories, don't they? I always found it fascinating, because I think both sides, when anyone is patrolling the street based on people's skin colour, looking to assault people because they've got a different colour skin, I think that is sickening, quite frankly. But I do always find it quite interesting that people only seem to remember one side of that taking place. You can all Google it at your leisure. You will see that I am absolutely speaking facts in my recall. Anyway, look, I do want to talk about the state of the nation. It is a mess, ladies and gents. Also, the Home Office have now lodged an appeal against that hotel that's had that temporary injunction. Flags popping up all over the place. Many people delighted by that. Many councils less so. And I also want to talk about the changing demographics in this country. Is that problematic or not? See you in 2.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dewbs, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
you want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, welcome back to Dewbs and Co. Lots of you getting in touch about the Lucy Connolly situation. Mary says, I think it's absolutely disgusting how Lucy Connolly has been martyred. She is a racist, says Mary, but David says that Lucy Connolly should never have been imprisoned at all and that Keir Starmer should resign as a result of all of this mess. What do you think? Well, of course, let's move on because we've covered the Epping Hotel at length now. You all know this story. You all know that a temporary injunction was granted essentially on planning permission reasons, and 14 days, I think it was, given for these so-called residents to be evicted. Well, now there's been a further twist in the tale because the Home Office have decided that they are going to now appeal against that High Court's situation. What do you think to this? Because, I mean, you've seen the people of Epping. You've seen them jubilant. We crossed to them at the time. You've also seen the other side of raising concern, where are these people going to go? And now you've got this Home Office intervention.
I think Nigel Farage asked the right question at the beginning of this week in an article in The Telegraph, where he said it's time for Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper to decide whose side they're on. Are they on the side of illegal migrants, or are they on the side of the hard-working, law-abiding, tax-paying British people? I think we have an answer to that now today. I think Keir Starmer, Yvette Cooper and the Labour government are on the side of illegal immigrants and basically don't really care about the British people. Now, that's a tough thing to say, but it's the only conclusion you can draw looking at how they're controlling the borders. They have created a fiasco, a total fiasco, that even the Home Office's data this week has thrown light on. £5 billion in the last year wasted on the asylum system because Labour removed all deterrents and replaced them with incentives. So small boat numbers are up 50% on the same time last year. Only 4% of small boat people have been returned out of the country since this crisis began. And even worse, this is a bit that gets me, this Labour government, and the Tories were just as bad, have been giving British people's money, taxpayers' money, to private firms like Serco and Clear Springs for those firms to offer illegal migrants and asylum seekers more favourable contracts than they're offering to the British people. In other words, the British people's own money is being used to outbid the British people in their own housing market. And then Keir Starmer says, do you know what the word I'm going to focus on next year is? Fairness. This government does not give a stuff about fairness. It is consistently putting illegal migrants ahead of the British people. The people of Epping were right to protest, Michelle. The people this weekend are right to protest because they have concluded that the only way of influencing this government and getting the change they deserve is hitting the streets and protesting peacefully, which is crucial, but that's the way that they can bring about change, because this government does not have a clue what it is doing anymore.
Well, let's take those points one by one. Let's start with Nigel Farage. This is classic reform playbook. It's pitting people against each other. It's division division.
Labour's dividing peoples.
It's
Come
the
on.
people versus the asylum seekers. That is not what we want to see in this country. We want to see people come together. So I'm not happy with that playbook, and I'm frankly not surprised about it either. But let's look at some of that data that we had yesterday. Yes, small boat crossings are up. Yes, we have more asylum seekers coming into our system, but the asylum backlog is down, and that is the crucial bit. I know it's not exciting. I know it's unsexy. You can't see it like you can the boats or the hotels. But it's down by 25%. It's the lowest since 2021.
Why is it down? Why is it down?
Because the rate of processing has increased drastically. Because the second the Home Office came in as a Labour Home Office in July last year, they hired a load of people after the Tories had tied their own hands and stopped them.
But why are the numbers coming down?
Those claims.
Be clear to the people who are watching this show.
I told you.
Why are the asylum claims coming down? Are the backlogs coming down?
Because the Home Office hired hundreds of people to process the claims that the Tories were not processing.
The answer to the question is because upwards of 2/3 of all illegal migrants and asylum seekers are having their claims approved, which is why hundreds of thousands more people are coming over on the small boats, because we are a soft touch.
It's less than half.
No, it isn't. I've looked at the Home Office data this week shows about 2/3 of all asylum claims are being processed. Let me just tell the people out there what's going to happen if this carries on. If you look at the average levels of illegal migration into this country, if this carries on, by the time of the next general election, another 181,000 illegal migrants will have come into this country on the small boats.
Well, you're in luck, Matt, because nobody wants it to carry on. Not Labour, not the Tories, not Reform.
Labour's decriminalised the illegal migration system. There are no deterrents to coming into this country.
Labour has struck a deal with France that nobody was ever capable to do. The Tories couldn't even get them round the table. And nobody else has come with a credible, workable solution. I'm still waiting. I'm all ears, whatever your political views.
I'm going to tell you.
Let's have it. I'd love to hear it.
Leave the European Convention on Human Rights, reform the Human Rights Act and process offshore, immediately detain and deport all illegal migrants, put them on an island away from the British people, and don't insult the British people by putting them in the heart of their communities, next to their kids, next to families, next to schools. The old Labour Party, the Labour Party of Clement Attlee, would be appalled at what Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper are doing, because these are not Labour politicians. Do you know what they are? They're progressives. They're radical progressives, and they would rather put illegal immigrants ahead of their own people. That is what is going on right now.
Pure talk.
Clement Attlee would be appalled. Peter Shaw would be appalled. The old Labour politicians.
Their own people.
Do you know why Clement Attlee?
Their own people.
Yes. Do you know why?
On what basis? Stand that one up, because that is rubbish.
On the basis, on the basis that this Labour government is using the British people's taxpayers' money to bankroll private companies to give illegal migrants more favourable housing contracts than the British people. How do you explain that as a Labour supporter?
Nobody wants asylum seekers to live in hotels.
How do you explain that?
Nobody wants asylum seekers to live in hotels.
Right, so I'm giving you an example. You said, how are they putting illegal migrants ahead of British people? I'm giving you an example. They are giving them housing on more favourable terms than they are offering to the British people. How is that right?
Because we have a legal duty to take these people in and to process their claims.
We don't have to do that. We could leave the ECHR.
And what kind of a country would we be?
We'd be
seriously,
like
Matt,
Australia, like Canada. We'd be like America.
Right, hold on a minute, because there's a few things not stacking up here. Right, in Greece, they've not left the ECHR. They've declared an emergency. They've put a 3-month temporary pause on these asylum claims. They're having absolutely none of it now. They're saying that this is just all gone too far. It's directly impacting their country, and they're going to deal with the legal ramifications afterwards. So you don't have to leave the ECHR. Why can't we do something like that? Why can't we follow Greece?
Well, firstly, it's a land border. Secondly, it's a temporary measure. When Clement Attlee and the Labour government signed the European Convention on Human Rights, they did so on one condition, and Attlee was very clear about this, that it would not be put before UK law. What's happened is that ECHR has expanded over time, so it's now dominates UK law. If we left the ECHR, we would be able to deport foreign criminals, we'd be able to control our borders, and we'd be able to process illegal migrants offshore. No, we're only deporting Albanians and a few others.
The number of enforced removals is up by 25%.
No, it's down 7% on the last year. You don't even know the numbers.
25%.
It's also considerably lower than during the Blair governments. We forcibly deported about 9,000 people last year. Most went voluntarily. Labour are not...
Enforced, I'm talking about. Enforced
removals. About 9,000 people.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
OK,
170,000...
That is
progress.
No,
we are seeing progress. The asylum backlog is shrinking, enforced deportations are going up.
It's not progress.
And the hotel bills are falling as well. I know you can't see it, I know it's not sexy, but it's there. There are problems. This hasn't been sorted. It's a huge problem. It's the hardest problem in politics.
This is exactly what I'm talking about.
But we have to
All
look
Labour have left is gaslighting and misleading the British people.
That is such a bold claim. That is such a bold claim.
I think I'm one of...
Really?
I think this channel... Myself and a few others are the only people being straight with the British people as to what's going on. You are basically lying to people.
That is such a bold claim.
The number of hotels is up 8%.
I'm talking about the spend on hotels. I'm agreeing with you that the number of hotels is up.
Right.
I'm not disputing those facts, but
small boat numbers are up.
Down.
Small boat numbers are up. Right. 4% of small boat arrivals have been returned. Yeah, 4%. This is a fiasco. Labour have lost control of this crisis.
And I've literally just said that there are still issues to fix on the hardest problem in politics.
Right.
This is not going away anytime soon, despite the efforts of the government.
The reason people are protesting all weekend, and again, as long as they're protesting peacefully, let me just say, I 1,000,000,000% support them in doing that, as long as they're peacefully doing it. The reason they're doing it is precisely because of what is coming out of your mouth, which is people can sense. They can see that they are being lied to.
And the only alternative you can give me is leave the ECHR.
Yes, leave the ECHR.
Put the Good Friday Agreement in
Do you read
danger.
The Economist?
Sometimes.
Right. Do you like The Economist?
Well, I'm not...
Would you say it's a credible magazine?
The data that they cite is credible.
Right, OK. So even The Economist are saying we need to radically overhaul the asylum frameworks that we've had from 1948, 1951, because they no longer work.
We definitely have to have a conversation about Article 8. We have to look at this. But pulling the whole thing is vandalism.
I mean, OK, by the way, it's not just land borders that they're sorting everything out in Greece, it's sea borders as well. But notwithstanding that, I want to explore this notion of housing, because you're saying, and I agree with you, that British people are being nudged down the queue. Can you help me understand, explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old, why these governments, so it was not just the Labour government, it's the Tory government as well, have entered into contracts with private companies like Serco and Clear Springs or whatever it is, all of these people, and they have entered into contracts which they're not just a little bit better than what private landlords currently get. They are next stratosphere better than what private landlords get. They are offering private landlords up to 7-year contracts directly with these companies, not with the asylum seekers. No maintenance costs, no void periods, no management fees, refurbishment at the end of the term if required. This is so away from what normal landlords get on an average basis. Why? Why are these terms so much better, and a higher rent?
It is sadly a necessity given the scale of the problem.
It's not.
What would you do instead? I'm really curious.
Well, I'd apply a brain cell, and I would not be so ridiculous as to take the terms that current landlords currently get and multiply them by infinity, it feels like. You didn't need to do that. Why did we need to offer private landlords such vastly different terms? This is my question. Why? Why have you gone to landlords and said 7-year terms, higher rent, no maintenance? Why?
Look, I don't work in the Home Office, so I haven't seen those
contracts. But don't you think it sounds a bit stupid?
So
well, I don't... Come on. I don't work in the Home Office.
Detail, but what I can say is this.
No, you're dodging my question. I don't work in the Home Office, and I haven't scrutinised these contracts in details, but I understand the contents of them. They're very much publicly available for people to see. Many people in their droves are turning those houses over to these companies, and they are doing it because the terms are so much better. My question is, why would any government, it's not just Labour, the Tories seemingly were so thick that they did it as well. Why?
Well, what I know is that when Labour came in, and we can see this through evidence sessions in select committees, Labour has looked at those contracts. It is pulled away from certain providers because they weren't up to scratch. So it is assessing that process. There are some things they will say in those committees, there are some things they won't. But the reality of it is there are a lot of people that need to be housed. And what's unhelpful...
I'm not having this, I'm afraid. Sorry, I'm not having this. Sorry, Matt, because I know you two are supposed to be thrashing out, but I can't help it. This is... If you were serious, if the Labour government was serious about solving this problem and reassuring the British public, you know what, we've got a handle on this, you would be looking at these contracts, you would be saying that these are so disproportionately beneficial to the landlords. They are so much better than current terms that landlord gets. We're going to take these contracts, we're going to rip them up. Yes, we might incur some penalties to exit these contracts, but so what? And then we will renegotiate these things at marginally better terms if we have to.
So
why are people saying that?
Let's just be clear here. Are you suggesting that the government is willfully paying over the odds?
Yes.
And you're suggesting that the previous government did that as well?
Yes.
They've all done it.
Can you explain to me the political advantage of that?
They've done it because they can't find housing for people who shouldn't be in the country to begin with, and they've even used British taxpayers' money to bankroll the private companies as a backstop for doing it.
So once again, what's the political advantage of that?
It's not about political advantages.
Of course it is.
No,
everything in politics is about political calculation.
Everything is a choice. They are choosing to put private sector firms and people who are breaking our laws ahead of the British people.
And I'm asking you, what do you think the political advantage of doing that is?
It's not about political advantage.
This is one of the most important issues in politics. Why would the government and the previous government willfully err on this issue?
No, I can't. Honestly, almost can't have this conversation because it's like it's speaking to somebody. I'm debating somebody who speaks a different language. The reason they're doing this is because they have pushed the crisis to such a point that the only answer they have is to push the British people out of the way on the housing ladder and prioritise people who have broken our laws to get into the country. The answer to the question is these people should not be in our country to begin with. So we shouldn't get into the minutiae of housing policy. The answer is how do we detain, deport and process offshore? That is the answer to the question.
That is the solution that is simple, obvious and wrong. Because you've told me you want to come out of the ECHR, which is geopolitical vandalism. And the
Are you a geopolitical vandal?
The result of that will reverberate.
No.
We can't just run around ripping up treaties.
This is Project Fear 2.0. We heard the same stuff during Brexit. The ECHR is not fit for purpose. Article 3 and Article 8 of the ECHR are used to keep paedophiles and drug dealers in our country.
And on that, I agree with you. As I've said, we do need to look at Article 8. We need to make sure that it is working
and
where
Article
it should
3?
be working. We need to look at the whole thing, frankly, and make sure that it is working. But ripping it up is a schoolboy solution.
It's not ripping it up. It's replacing the ECHR with UK legislation, reforming the Human Rights Act, which entrenches the ECHR into UK law, and it is about reforming these so the British people out there are put first. I don't understand why Labour politicians struggle with that notion because they used to get it.
There you go. You will be getting it at home, I'm sure. You're a bright bunch. Join the conversation in all the usual ways. I will bring you in after the conversation, but I do have to say that a Serco spokesperson says the following. We do not purchase any properties, so the suggestions that we are somehow preventing people getting on the property ladder is wrong. The rental properties we acquire have limits set by the Home Office on the amount of rent we're allowed to pay, and we work closely with the Home Office and the local authorities to ensure that that property locations are acceptable. Didn't answer the key point that many people have a problem with here, because yes, it is over the odds rent, but it's much more favourable terms. It's not just about the rent, albeit the rents are higher. It's all of the other stuff. No void periods, no maintenance costs, refurbs at the end where required, and lengthy contracts. Honestly, this is not difficult stuff, ladies and gents, is it? The conversation continues after the break, and thankfully Dewberry Tavern opens soon as well. Yes. See you in a minute.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
There's the continued threat of heavy showers over parts of Italy and the south of France for the next few days. Plenty of hot, sunny weather in Spain, and the same goes for much of Greece and Turkey as well. There are those heavy showers affecting southern Italy and further north and into the south of France. The chance of a heavy one in Nice. Small risk of a shower towards Barcelona, but most of Spain and Portugal dry and sunny, along with the Canaries. We'll hang on to the sunshine here, but a continued threat of showers in Barcelona and Nice into Monday.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. It's not a bank holiday in Scotland, but elsewhere it is. 3 days of largely dry weather. Can't promise sunshine all weekend. There will be a mix of sun and clouds, but it should steadily start to warm up. High pressure is in control. Trapped under that area of high pressure, there has been quite a bit of cloud, and still through this evening and overnight, big lumps of cloud, providing a little bit of drizzle here and there, but most places won't see that and stay dry. Some decent clear spells across South Wales, southwest England, and some breaks in the cloud across northern Scotland, allowing temperatures well down into single figures here. Most towns and cities holding up about 11 to 13 degrees. Into the weekend, it is likely to start fairly drab for many, but I'm hopeful the cloud will tend to break up. We'll see some sunny spells. Like today, southwest England, South Wales should do okay for blue sky. The cloud thick enough maybe for a bit of drizzle over northern England, maybe the Midlands. And during the day, an increasing threat of a few light showers just trickling towards Northern Ireland. Mostly a dry start across Scotland. We'll have some clear skies in the northeast. It will allow for a chilly start here, but quite quickly, once the sun's up, those temperatures will start to tick up through the day. As we go through the day, not a great deal of change. I'm hopeful the cloud will break up a little bit more and we'll see some sunny spells. So dry and bright basically sums it up, but there will be a few showers coming into Northern Ireland during the afternoon. Later, they could drift into western Scotland. Temperature-wise, well, about average for the time of year for most, but still feeling quite cool, especially if it stays cloudy in northeast England, only 16 or 17 here. Bit of sunshine, we could see temperatures into the low 20s elsewhere. Sunday sees the threat of a few showers into western Scotland, but again, pretty well scattered. Most places will stay dry, and many places will see a bit more in the way of sunshine coming through. And as a result, temperatures just lifting by a little bit. And into Monday, I'm even more optimistic for sunny skies for many and slightly warmer.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. An accident has occurred on the A4 Wait 7, resulting in local diversions. Meanwhile, in Derbyshire, the M1 northbound near Tibshelf Services experiences lane closures due to a broken down vehicle. On the M4 in Slough, an overturned vehicle has led to 20-minute delays by closing one lane. Surrey's M25 anti-clockwise also sees a lane closure following a minor collision. For those travelling by train, Great Western Railway is deploying taxis to operate between Bourne End and Marlow, while Greater Anglia reports disruptions affecting services between Shenfield and Witham. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Dewbs and Co. I want to talk to you about the state of the nation. Of course, we've got protests that will be taking place again this weekend. You know, the temperature is very high out there, and of course anyone is allowed to go and protest, but do so peacefully. Don't give people what they want. Don't go with your stupid balaclavas and your masks on and end up the wrong side of the law. It's not worth losing your liberty and all the rest of it. Be sensible is my advice to anyone going out this weekend. But look, the nuts and bolts of the issue that's making many people concerned at the moment is the way that their local neighbourhoods are changing. This whole demographic change. So London, if you just pick that as obviously the capital city, that has changed from a 95% white British city to a 39% white British city in a single human lifetime, apparently. Matt Goodwin, your thoughts?
Well, of course, everybody feels deeply concerned about this because demography is the nation and it is our culture and it is our collective memory and it's all of the things that define who we are. People, I think, are beginning to understand in this country the scale and speed of the project that our politicians have imposed on them with no democratic vote. By 2063, white Britons will be a minority across the country, not only in London, that's not a long way away. By 2073, according to forecasts, people born outside of the UK and their children will be a majority in this country. And by the end of this century, 1 in 4 people will be following Islam. Now, people might respond to that and say, well, you're scaremongering. I would respond to them and say, well, these are accurate, reliable demographic forecasts by respected academics. So the question is, how can we retain what it is that makes us and us? And that means ending mass uncontrolled immigration, looking much more seriously at integrating who is here, ensuring that everybody, a bare minimum, speaks the English language and understands our laws, but I think at a deeper level, actually buys into our values and our culture, because it's not enough that people just come over, sign a few papers and say, well, hey, I'm British now. I don't believe that is a strong enough glue to keep a nation state manageable and unified over the longer term.
Sebastian?
Well, this is one of my favourite subjects because I get to talk about my home of Waltham Forest in East London, which I never stop saying 4 in 10 people there are born abroad. I can look at this data that we've got in front of us here, and it shows that just over a third in the 2021 census are of different ethnic backgrounds other than being white British. And it's fantastic.
Waltham Forest, yeah, so it says
35.6%
35.6% is white, British and Irish.
And we have different cultures, we have different foods, we have different practices, and everybody lives together really well, and it's a fantastic place to live.
Do you think London is a fantastic place to live?
I think London is the best city in the world.
Are you serious?
I am 100% serious.
So you walk around London and you think this is the best city in the world?
Oh my God, I do.
Have you travelled much? I'm not being rude. I'm not being rude. That's a genuine question.
And I always come home and I love stepping off the tube in Walthamstow, in my home. I feel so good there because the people around me are welcoming. If you lose something, you find it.
So if I say to you, for example, 1 million people in this country currently do not speak English, does that bother you?
I am really pleased that there are people who speak different languages in this country.
But that wasn't your question, though, was it? He won't ask you if you was pleased about other languages. He was asking you about English.
So if you're asking me specifically about integration, then yes, we have some work to do there. I want to make sure that when people move to this country, they learn the language and they get involved with our communities and they integrate. Because everybody wins then. It's not just about maintaining British identity, which is important. It's also about giving people the right to take part, and everybody benefits.
So what is it that you think makes this country distinctive? Because a lot of people on the left will say to me, well, actually, what defines us now is that we celebrate diversity, we welcome other people. But that is the same thing as saying we don't have an identity of our own. And actually, a lot of people on these islands feel very keenly, acutely, we do have a very distinctive identity, culture and history that actually has nothing to do with immigration. We have had more immigration every single year into this country since 1997 than we had in the whole period from the Anglo-Saxons in the 5th century to the end of the Second World War. This country, contrary to what the left tell us, was never a country of immigration. It has not always been a country of diversity, which is a meaningless term. So what is it that you think that actually defines our culture and nation?
Well, I'll give you a brilliant case study. He sat right in front of you. I'm the product of immigration. Both of my parents were born abroad, and I look like this, I sound like this, I dress like this. I don't know what you would say about me that is not integrated and that is not British. I feel proud to be British, and anybody who says otherwise is going down some very dark holes.
So if we have, looking at the census, for example, which shows us that in some areas we have about 1 in 4 people that openly reject a British or English identity and don't speak the language, should I feel concerned about that? Does that bother you? Because I look at the same data that is on the sheet of paper in front of you. I don't see an integrated nation anymore. I don't see a nation with a story about itself. I don't see a nation that looks comfortable with itself, and I don't see a nation that is confident about the future.
Well, there you go. That's an interesting point posed by Matt, and I'll let you respond to that after the break. You can ponder that same question as well. Dewberry Tavern opens, and we'll respond to that in 2.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GBNews family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hello everybody, welcome to my favourite part of the week, I cannot lie, Dewberry Tavern, it is open. Cheers to each and every single one of you. I need this, can't lie tonight, I need this, ladies and gents. Obviously, I've got Matt alongside me, I've got Sebastian alongside me as well. Look at the state there of the drink that Sebastian just poured. I do apologise for that. That was a guy called Joe pouring that one in the break, terrible. But anyway, cheers, cheers, cheers.
Well, I'm on the soft stuff because I've got the 8 p.m.
You're such a professional. Holly has been in touch and said, Michelle, Dewberry Tavern is definitely open in my house. I'm having a glass of Bollinger. She says, Bollinger, I'm going to come to your house. This is not Bollinger, I can assure you. Look, anyway, we're just talking about, and I want to continue the conversation because this is the kind of stuff that you guys will be talking about in the pubs up and down the land this weekend, I can tell. We're just talking about demographic change and all the rest of it. You were just asking Samuel, just recap in case anyone's just tuned in, your points to Samuel.
Well,
Sebastian, I said to you I was going to call you Samuel.
That's 2 now.
I know. Go on, carry on, Sebastian.
Well, I think if you look at the data that came out this week from the Home Office, of the top 20 nationalities that are now coming into the UK that have given long-term work visas, only one of those groups is from Europe, from France, which is way down the list, and only 3 are from the Anglosphere, are from the United States, Canada and Australia. The rest are from non-European, radically different nations, Uzbekistan, China, Nigeria, Pakistan, among others. So my question to the left is, how on earth are we going to unite and build a shared culture, identity and way of life around radically different groups, around a country that's going through this pace of demographic change, and where the leaders of this country don't seem to have any idea as to how they're going to unify and integrate people, and aren't even trying to do that.
Sebastian?
Well, I think integration is incredibly important, and we talked about it a little bit previously, but that's definitely part of the solution. It's making sure that when you come here, you learn the language, you contribute, whether that's working or whether that's getting involved in your community. That is essential. You can't come here and fall into the shadows.
So
but
let me
what
just before you get to it, can I just say one thing? You say contribute, and I agree with you. Contribute to the country. Of all the visas that we gave out last year under the Labour government, we gave about 700,000, 800,000 visas. Once you take away tourists and so on, 14%, 1/4, went to long-term workers, went to skilled workers. So the people who are coming in, they're not contributing. Only 14% are contributing. The rest are refugees, the relatives of workers, students who, to be honest, don't often earn that much and contribute less.
That's slightly misleading, if I may, because you talked about long-term skilled workers, and that doesn't encompass workers, which is a very big chunk.
Not that much bigger. But doesn't it trouble you that 14% are coming in on worker visas?
It is a big no. It encourages me that there are people coming in who are doing jobs that we need to do in the short term. In the long term, I would like to see British people trained to fill those roles. I'm pleased to see the Labour government is cracking down on industries and saying, if you can't prove that you can train people at home, we will restrict your ability
so
to hire from abroad.
86% of all people that came into the country last year are coming in on visas that have nothing to do with high-skilled work. That doesn't bother you?
Because there are other types of work that aren't high-skilled that we also value. We were talking about London a moment ago. The point
if
about
you just tuned in, he says it's the greatest city on earth.
Greatest city in the world.
And I
will never stop saying that.
I think the 500,000 illegal migrants living in London would probably agree with you, because
so
we're giving them
all of my neighbours who are here legally, who are from all around the world. I love them for it. I go to my American neighbour for Thanksgiving. I go to my Filipino neighbour for fantastic food. I learn so much about the world from them, and I'm enriched as a result.
And you said, by the way, if you lose something, you find it again, or words to that effect.
Yes.
I bet you don't if it's an iPhone
get into my local
gets
Facebook
snatched
group
off your hand as you're walking idly down the street. Anyway, what do you think? Let me ask you this. Sorry, look at the time. It flies by very, very quickly. This Operation Raise the Colours, the flag thing that's up and down, sweeping the nation, do you support that?
So I love a flag. I think we have quite a shy flavour of patriotism in this country usually. We don't tend to fly flags very proudly outside of sporting tournaments. And so I would say anybody who wants to fly a flag in their home or on their car, that's a really lovely idea.
So we like it. I like that.
But there's a but, I'm afraid.
Go on, get on with it then. It has to be a very quick but, because I want him and then I've got to finish. Go on.
Jack, love that thing. But if it's... We're seeing Britain First, who are contributing flags. We're seeing Tommy Robinson, who is promoting this online. So there are people who share quite extremist views who are getting involved, and I would just be wary
what extremist views does, for example, Tommy Robinson have?
Well, Tommy Robinson just this week was referring to immigrants on his Twitter as invaders.
Can I just come in? A
lot of people think that our borders are being invaded, by the way. Go on.
I just find it curious that 5 years ago, many people, and I'm not saying yourself, but many people on the left were saying, hey, guys, don't mind us. We're just protesting. We're just assaulting police officers. We're raising Black Lives Matter flags. We're taking the knee for a revolutionary, anti-democratic social movement while we're breaking COVID laws. 5 years later, many people on the left are saying, don't you dare raise your national flag. That's racist and evil. The hypocrisy is very visible for a lot of people to see.
Well, there you go. Look, time absolutely flies, doesn't it? And speaking of flying, I know that many of you are flying your flags loud and proud. You send me lots of pictures, and I do appreciate receiving them. It makes me laugh, by the way, when people have been painting roundabouts, and the police in some cases have been getting involved because it's apparently dangerous. How come it's not dangerous, then, when people are going around painting zebra crossings in the stupid pride colours? How come that's all right? There's no danger there. Double standards, if you ask me, within our society. But look, I could sit here all day talking to these gents. I've enjoyed the programme. Thanks, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the programme as well, and I really appreciate your company. I wish you a great weekend. I'll see you next week. Night.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. It's not a bank holiday in Scotland, but elsewhere it is. 3 days of largely dry weather. Can't promise sunshine all weekend. There will be a mix of sun and clouds, but it should steadily start to warm up. High pressure is in control. Trapped under that area of high pressure, there has been quite a bit of cloud, and still through this evening and overnight, big lumps of cloud, providing a little bit of drizzle here and there, but most places won't see that and stay dry. Some decent clear spells across South Wales, South West England, and some breaks in the cloud across northern Scotland, allowing temperatures well down into single figures here. Most towns and cities holding up about 11 to 13 degrees. Into the weekend, it is likely to start fairly drab for many, but I'm hopeful the cloud will tend to break up. We'll see some sunny spells. Like today, South West England, South Wales should do OK for blue sky. The cloud thick enough maybe for a bit of drizzle over northern England, maybe the Midlands. And during the day, increasing threat of a few light showers just trickling towards Northern Ireland. Mostly a dry start across Scotland. We'll have some clear skies in the northeast. It will allow for a chilly start here, but quite quickly, once the sun's up, those temperatures will start to tick up through the day. As we go through the day, not a great deal of change.